The Tomb of Horrors, one of D&D's most notorious dungeons and one of the oldest in circulation, made by none other than the worst personality in D&D, a Sararak, the Lich King of trolling, unfunny frustration, and the harbinger of death across the plains. A few years back, with Jacob from XP to level 3, I did a solo run through this dungeon with one of my favorite characters, and I managed to survive all the way up to the fake-out ending with not so much more than a scratch. So today I wanted to sit down with a mug of Irish coffee and explore every inch of what makes this dungeon so legendary, and then find out exactly how fast I, running a solo character, can overcome all horrors within this dungeon, because I already read it before recording, and it's the worst piece of D&D content I've ever read in my entire life. Worse than Storm King's Thunder, worse than D&D Beyond homebrew memes, where it somehow falls squarely into the category of, if you did this to me, I would stand up at the table and tell you to go fuck yourself. It's a handcrafted hate child written by Gary Gygax himself that got ported into the Yawning Portal for 5e, and it's touted as the Thinking Man's Dungeon. So before we jump into the intro, I'll be approaching this dungeon loosely from the lens of my speedrunning character, Mr. Wise Guy the Shadow Monk. Over half of all other classes and parties would die by default in here, and a level 20 paladin would get turned to dust by the Laughing Lich without any single exception. So let's walk up to the worst dungeon in the world and get started. The dungeon's basic design is set inside a small, desolate, skull-shaped hill with 3 potential entries all caved in with rubble. To begin the absolutism for this dungeon, the only possible way in is to prod at the rubble with a long stick until you reveal one of the entries, and then spend an entire hour removing the rubble for each hole. The first hole is a shabby hallway with a door, and opening the door collapses the entire ceiling because it's not a real entry. The third hole is a literal Jesus tomb trap with a big rock that falls behind you when you enter, locking you in there forever.
Shrek, what are you doing? You know.
Both of these are reasons you should bring along a mage hand to check shit out. So just don't go into those, trust the middle one. Here you find an obviously trap-filled fancy fresco dance hall, with a chest that you absolutely should not even touch because who keeps their treasure in the foyer, as well as a scary false monster prison door that you can rip apart and enter, as well as a buttload of pitfall traps on the ground because it's classic. Shadow monks can avoid some of these goofs by shadow stepping to the end of the hall or running along the wall, where there are, at the end, seemingly 2 pathways. A misty doorway with 3 Simon Says color buttons that light up around it, which in that context only allows for 10 variables, so it's not hard to figure out, and you could potentially just walk in anyway without touching them, and the other pathway, the most famous and awesome trap in all of Dungeons & Dragons. The thing on the front of the book, a Sararak's best idea ever. You know it, you love it, the yawning face of the Great Green Devil, whose mouth is a dark and ominous portal to who knows where. Where does it actually lead? What complex machinations could possibly hide within its gaping maw? Death. Instant death. That's how complex this trap is.
Guarantee you're gonna die if you touch me, and there's no afterlife. Everything just goes black. Don't do it!
You see, when in the Tomb of Horrors, you are never allowed to take action to solve things. Always, always, always examine and investigate and detect every single inch of this stupid fucking dungeon. And eventually you will learn that everything is trapped and all the traps suck. You gotta walk around here terrified with a duty-filled diaper if you want to survive. Also, always have Detect Magic active, since it's one of the 2 spells that the dungeon leans into heavily. That, and for some reason, Disintegration. Moving on, if you don't play Simon Says, the mist door will teleport you to a room called the Forsaken Prison. It's a little cubicle with 3 levers. If you turn them the wrong way, you fall down a deep pit. If you turn them the right way, you get to climb out of the little hole. But with my party of 1 monk, he could honestly do this wrong, avoid the fall damage, and then wall run back up to kickflip the levers without any trouble. If you hit the buttons on the mist door correctly, it instead leads you to room 11, which we will have to get to later. We're at tidbit 7 right now, and this place has a few bizarre branching routes. So let's go to area 8, the lair of the dripped out gargoyle. This area was incredibly hard to understand how the hell you're even supposed to reach it. Like, the entry isn't marked, and rereading the entry hallway, I couldn't fucking find it because it's in this tiny paragraph that doesn't tell you where it actually leads, but you have to inspect the fake monster prison, tear away the wall like a construction worker, and push the door inward. There you find the dripped out gargoyle, who will fight you, and once he's dead you can collect 10 gems from his necklace. There's also a nonsense poem about gold and magical mysteries that I don't think matters at all. It's just a waste of time. I know this tomb is a whole buttload of fun, but if you want a really fun supplement, go check out Scorched Basin on Kickstarter. Seriously, it's a huge passion project by Homie and the Dude, and it deserves as much support as it can get. This over 300-page campaign setting is heavily inspired by Mad Max and Dune, but it really has so many unique ideas present in it, like a frequency-based magic system, its own written dialect, 5 factions, 7 terrains, 12 major locations, and a massive set of explorable, combat-ready maps. Everything you could ever want from a desert setting is fully fleshed out in Scorched Basin, from the cars to the worms to the fucking music. It all kicks ass, and if you want to check it out, please click my specific link so that I make a couple bucks off their efforts. It's a great team, a super fun setting, and the whole thing fits any RPG system that you want to use it in. Get back to the shit-ass tomb. Area 9 is fucking awful unless you are specifically a monk. Each of these rooms is an isolated little square with one-way entry doors, all of which are hidden and require a DC 20 perception check to find. And when you do find them, you have to play Bop It with each weird door handle and get through all 7 rooms. The Nintendo cheat code is as follows. Pull down and inward. Pivot on central hinge. Pull inward and up at bottom. Slide up. Pull double panels inward. Slide to the left. And then the last door has 7 studs in a row, and if you press them wrong, it like falls on you like a thwomp, and if you do it right, it opens. That's fun, right? 7 consecutive DC 20 perception checks and then some bullshit each time? Well, what if I told you each round that you're stuck in one of these rooms, bolts would rain down on everyone from the ceiling? Fuck you. Good thing the monk has crazy high perception and can negate damage from the bolts using his little reflect projectile thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and give my guy the Dungeon Delver feat. But also, we just won't need to go in this stupid-ass chamber, it's not even necessary. But it's one of 2 ways to reach Area 10, the big hall of big balls and pointless paintings. The book kinda shits on the artist who ever worked in this chamber. It says all the complex paintings, creatures, and glyphs on the wall that you can study mean absolutely nothing, in a dungeon where you should be inspecting everything. Also, that's fucking rude. I think that any painting could technically mean something. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Did someone say beholder?
What? No, There's some illusory doors and some secret doors here, all requiring that same DC 20 perception check, and then another misty doorway at the end of the ball hall. This is the second worst of 3 doors in this dungeon. Actually, no, all the doors in this dungeon suck my Brazilian waxed ass. Anyway, I like to call this misty doorway the
Fuck you.
fake out, make you naked, and steal all your shit, and then put you back at the beginning of the dungeon doorway. This almost wouldn't be a problem for our monk, since normally they don't need belongings, but Mr. Wise Guy actually does need a small bundle of goods to properly beat this dungeon. And once you walk through it, all of your stolen shit goes into the most difficult room to enter all the way at the end of the dungeon. This is a great way to piss off your players and lose your friends for a solid month, but according to the book, it is cruel but most entertaining for the DM. If I ran this, I would fear for my own personal safety from my players. Also, all the balls in the hall do nothing. So let's go to room 11. Either the mist from the previous room teleported you here, or you entered from the gargoyle room with 7 Bop It doors. This chamber has a statue of a 4-armed gargoyle that stays unmoving, where one of its arms have been broken off and sits on the ground next to it. This puzzle is great, you're gonna love this. You're supposed to leave the broken arm on the ground and shove 3 gems into its remaining hands. Do you know what happens then? The statue crushes your gems. That was fun, right? Well, it gets better. If you take all 10 gems from the dripped out gargoyle room that you probably didn't enter and put them into this thing's hands repeatedly, it crushes them all. Cool, right? And then a little voice says, "Thanks, check out the hand on the ground." But there's nothing in it. You see, in the hand appears an invisible gem of seeing, and the only way to retrieve it is to pick it up and wipe off the magical invisible dirt. You want to cast See Invisibility? You want to cast Detect Magic? Doesn't work, fuck you, eat shit. Also, if you did bump the arm or try to move it at all earlier, the crystal will roll out and you cannot find it. Mr. Gygax, I would like to slap you with a leather glove. If you do get the gem, it gives you a collective half an hour of True Sight after you attune to it. But also, True Sight isn't much more helpful than Detect Magic in this shit-eater's tomb. For our speedrun, we cannot risk a whole attunement hour anyway. So let's mosey on over to Area 13, the Chamber of Three Chests. This chamber is covered by an illusory wall and a false dead end, guarded by the only DC 10 perception check in this whole godforsaken dungeon. Also, of course, because it's slightly trapped. And this is where you find the three chests. You're never gonna believe this, but they're all trapped. One's got snakes, the other's got treasure and some darts, and one spawns a big-ass fucking skeleton to beat your ass. So we just don't go in there, and we follow this golden rule. Pretty much don't touch anything unless you're entirely out of exits. Which might seem like the case, because if you went the right way, through another illusory door in the Orb Hall, you'll find a dead end. And you need a DC 20 perception or that stupid-ass gem that you definitely didn't find by feeding the golem his son's dripped-out necklace. Don't you love when the dungeon master says to your face, you have to perceive perfectly at every turn or fail the dungeon and go home? There isn't even the illusion of choice, it's just illusions. Beyond the secret door is the Chapel of Evil, where I was raised. Someone built a scary evil church in the middle of this dirt hill, but the fun, exciting twist is that it's actually a hallowed place of holy goodness. There's some pews here, all of them are filled with untaxed donations for the pastor's next boating trip, and the front row is full of gold and rich people's farts. If you open it, the shit farts get released and fill the room, but also you get a literal buttload of
stinky money, man, that shit smelling funny.
There's an altar at the front of this room that's obviously booby-trapped to sacrifice you when you touch it, and the only good thing in this whole dungeon is the third misty archway. When you enter it, you get what Republicans fear the most: the evil sex change. Very literally, it's a mist that turns you from a God-fearing twink into an evil goth chick by changing your biological sex and inverting your alignment. If you leave the misty room and enter it again, you get your alignment back, but stay double-cheeked up. And if you go in a third time, it'll set you back to the way you were, and all the way back through the dungeon. Huzzah. In my opinion though, this is the most sacred room in D&D. It's a surgery-free sex change that takes less than 6 seconds once you know how it works. But also, I'm fucking on to you, Gary. I know damn well you made 3 misty archways so that your party would walk through them, get naked, and then turn into evil baddies with black lipstick. You nasty little pervert man. But the Rule 63 mist isn't a way forward. Once again, we need a perception check to find a coin slot in the wall on the other side of the room. Slip a coin or a ring in, maybe you got one from the poo pews, and move down the path. This path has 3 trap doors, all with pitfalls. Mage hand people, you gotta use it on every door in a dungeon. Except haha teehee is so funny haha. The third pit has a secret doorway like an inverted Looney Tunes fake wall. If you don't fall down it and you miss it, you continue forward to find a real Looney Tunes door that's completely impassable. Unless you cast the pre-designated spell Disintegrate or wail on the door for a few solid minutes. If you do break the door and move forward, there's a tilting pitfall into the type of lava that kills you instantly. A monk or a rogue might be able to escape this seesaw tilt if they ran down it, but a low-dex paladin would die here for sure. Back down the correct way into that pitfall, the dungeon gets even fucking dumber. Going so far as to state, unless you announce you are holding your breath before moving forward, you breathe in an evil gas. It's just scarecrow gas that gets really dense. If you fail the save, the gas wastes your time by forcing you to run back out of the dungeon for a full minute. And then beyond that is one of my favorite parts of the dungeon. Leading into the final crypt is the stairway covered in cobwebs. These old spiderwebs are so strong and powerful that if you get entangled in them, there is nothing on the face of this earth that can save you. No escape DC, you cannot cut them, you can't teleport out, you can't fucking dimension shift or shapeshift or call upon the gods themselves to untangle yourself. These old dusty webs are stronger than dimensional shackles forged by Hephaestus himself, made from titane adamanti unobtainium. There are only 2 ways to escape these webs, and one of those ways destroys them. The wish spell. can get you out. Or you can just light a magical match. As long as you have any type of magic fire, you're fine and they burn away like nothing. Past the final boss, that is whatever fucking spider made that, is the fake final boss, who literally placed a magical weapon at his own front door that one-shots him. If you kill this fake Acererak in his little lobby, you get a Disneyland ride-style fake cave collapse that starts. The room rumbles, a huge illusion overwhelmingly begins to convince the party that they need to leave quickly because they beat a Acererak. If the party does run away from the whole dungeon at this point, this dickhead-ass condescending entry in the official Yawning Portal book tells the dungeon master to ask the party, "Was that too hard for you stupid babies? Do you want to cry?" Page 221, paragraph 1. Can't make that shit up. Makes me want to kick someone in the teeth. Now it's time for the real way forward, which sucks just as much. Right before the evil turnaround gas and the spiderwebs from Arachne's thorax herself is yet another DC 20 perception check to reveal a magic door. A door that, unless you determine it is magic, cannot be opened. And only then, once you have done that, can you open it specifically with Dispel Magic or Remove Curse. If you came here without one of these two spells, you're done. Leave. You're soft locked out of Dungeons and Dragons. You don't get to play anymore. This shit feels like King's Quest. You guys remember those games? Or is everybody too young? I didn't even play those. It's easy to miss like some tiny little tidbit you were supposed to do a while ago, and then you get stonewalled and have to go back 50 saves. That actually happened to me in Oblivion. I ran out of lockpicks, and I had like all my previous saves deleted at the very end of the Thieves Guild quest, where the only way out is to pick a very hard lock when you have the Elder Scroll. I lost like 120 hours of gameplay there. Also, just imagine that you were suspicious about this fake ending and you didn't roll a perfect D20 perception check on this specific corridor, and then you started backtracking through everything that you didn't explore. Quite the thinking man's dungeon, if I do say so myself. This next room, Chamber 19, is a laboratory designed to waste the player's time by its own admission. It has a bunch of dumb I Spy Where's Waldo garbage all over the place, with 3 large vats containing 2 secret pieces of a broken up golden key, as well as dirty water, acid, and slime respectively. In the acid, it says you have a cumulative 1% chance of finding a key half if you fish around in it. What the fuck? That RNG reminds me of trying to make the fucking Ankh shield in Terraria. It's not gonna happen. And it's not fun to spend hours at the table re-rolling, but at least you can be kinda clever about getting it, like hucking a bunch of the loose jars into the acid and slowly emptying it out, or distilling it with the murky water vat next to it, but my monk is just gonna break the fucking vat so that everything mixes on the floor. Past the pointless room, aside from the hidden key that we definitely need, is a dumb spike pit with more jokes at the party's expense, and it's so dumb I'm not even gonna explain it because Mr. Wise Guy is gonna shadow step over it. Moving forward to Chamber 21. The Agitated Chamber, which is a weird concept. Again, it's also behind a hidden door. It has a little bucking bronco floor that rocks around and some tapestries that are made entirely of poison. So if you grab the tapestries, the rocking makes them explode into gunk, but also you have to grab one of them to reveal a hidden door forward that you also have to perceive. This leads to a divide. One way is the right way, and the other is a little detour that leads to a room full of stupid idiot gas that gives you a lobotomy if you can't resist it with an intelligence saving throw. That makes a lot of sense to me. If there's gas filling up your lungs and affecting your brain, only people with a doctorate in theoretical physics should be able to overcome it. There's also a siren here, and in the words of the book, as a private joke by a Acererak, she's trapped. And she's under the effects of that spell from Howl's Moving Castle where she can't tell you that she's trapped.
The best part of that spell is you can't tell anyone about it.
She's annoying. You can save her if you want to take her with you, or grab one of the 2 treasure sacks sitting next to her and just get the fuck out of there. This whole room isn't necessary. Back down the path, there's a fucking false door that's actually a real door, and also it hides a secret trap door next to it. If you weren't triple checking every inch of this dungeon, you can miss it, and instead you'll just move forward to what is the knockout corridor, where if you fail a save, you'll probably get knocked out by gas and go to sleep, and then you'll get flattened by the strongest steamroller in all of Dungeons and Dragons that kills you instantly. Quote the book, "There is no appeal. For once, I agree." I'm still not over this being called the Thinking Man's Dungeon. That's not what it is. This is the Fuck You dungeon made by the Fuck You guy, sponsored by Evil Larry. At the end of the correct hidden hallway is another fuck you door, with no way to do anything to open it other than shove 3 swords into it exactly at the same time. Chamber 25, the Pillared Throne Room. This is just a big ass room with magic pillars, 2 more devil face doors up in the fucking ceiling for some reason, 3 doors in the back, and an evil throne with an evil crown and an evil scepter at the front. If you put on the evil crown, you can't take it off unless you tap it with the good side of the evil scepter. But if you do it with the evil side of the evil scepter, you turn into poop and die. If you touch the evil scepter to the evil throne the right way, you get to move forward. Beyond that, don't touch anything in this whole room. There's a gem on the ground in the back of it that lets you cast wish, but it inverts your wish and then blows up and kills you. It's obvious you shouldn't touch it because it's surrounded by the bits of a dead guy, but just imagine your dungeon master doing this to you. Like, you pick up the stone and say, "I wish to know how to beat the dungeon." And then your dungeon master's like, "You forget everything you know about dungeons." And you fucking explode and die, and so does everyone around you. I think they should start selling these gems at most magic item shops. That's so useful. These 2 rooms at the back are simple. They're like closets. One's empty and the other has a mummy with a little curse. And then in the middle is the fuck you room. Another one. I don't know how many of those we've passed. It's also called the Chamber of Hopelessness. If you flounder around in the fancy throne room trying to figure out secrets by touching things, you might end up here, where you can't leave and you get to die slowly, or you can choose death by walking into a sword closet next to you. Behind the throne is a fancy multicolored gemstone stairway with no puzzle except for a key that wants you to hate it via the antipathy spell. Antipathy, I'm not sure. But as a monk, wisdom saving throws are easy as apple pie, and we actually do need that key. Then, just beyond it, there's the world's most complicated door for no reason. There's a little bowl with a keyhole, and if you put either of the 2 keys that you found in it, fuck you, you get hurt a little bit. The door is super weird, and it has 10 random things that happen if you try to stab the door and start casting spells at it. It'll just start bleeding, and you might eventually feel like you have to do that because the door is otherwise impenetrable. What you actually need to do, and you're gonna love this part, is dunk the evil scepter into the keyhole bowl. But be careful, if you put the wrong end in, you're naked and you get teleported to the start of the dungeon because that's a really, really funny thing to have happen to you. Finally, beyond the door that might be bleeding is a treasure room. Within it are big-ass statues, classic treasures, a wish-granting genie urn, and a dead Acererak with broken shit. The only way out is to move one of the 4 statues, but not with a strength check. Now this is some good game design. You're gonna love this. It's especially for what we already know about D&D. To move one of these statues, you need a combined strength of fucking 48. Then you do it perfectly. It's like it weighs 1 pound with 8 people pushing it aside. Moving this one specifically reveals a string.
Pull the secret string, opening the secret compartment
that leads out of the dungeon. Except the second dead Acererak was also fake. And actually there's another hidden DC 15 secret door that needs both keys that you probably didn't collect. And you gotta do them in correct order, and if you do the second one wrong and don't figure it out, it'll kill half of your party by squashing them with rocks. And then you get to the final room, Chamber 33, the Crypt of Acererak. This is where naked people's shit got teleported, as well as just a buttload of treasure from all the other failed adventurers that came in here, including a fancy gem-inlaid skull. And standing guard is a spooky-ooky ghost made from the dust of Acererak's bones that you gotta fight. But you don't really have to fight it, it doesn't matter at all, just ignore it. The actual villain is the gem-inlaid skull that just kills you from that one video I made. This one kills you extra good, using an insta-kill soul trap ability that only he has. But it needs to see its targets. Survive this fight and you're done. Jesus fucking Christ, what a dungeon. That's it. And you know what that means now that we're at the end. I've devised the fastest way to overcome the Tomb of Horrors using just one character. Here's what we need. A level 16 human monk who follows the way of the shadows so that he can shadow step past pitfalls. He needs the magic initiate feat for mage hand and detect magic, and the dungeon delver feat to ensure that those DC 20 perception checks pass. He also needs the sailor background for perception proficiency. And in order to actually make it through this bullshit, he will be carrying 1 leather sack, a scroll of dispel magic, 3 swords lined equidistantly tied to a stick, a single copper coin, earplugs, 2 live mice, and 2 potions of hill giant strength. Also, with how stupidly big this dungeon is, we need the Boots of Speed, which we will click before we start the timer. Now, a good question to ask here, how does he know how to speedrun this tomb? Well, that's easy. He has a friend who replicates him using the clone spell, and has been treating this dungeon as a roguelike. He's gotten to the end of the dungeon once before, and was immediately killed before his soul could be trapped. So buckle up, we're at the front door, let's fucking do this. We push aside enough rubble to open a visible crack in the center hallway, cast Detect Magic, and Shadow Step inside. He dashes across the corridor to the misty door, plays Simon Says, and steps through the mist. Then he runs out of the stupid statue room. Detect Magic shows us the illusory doorway behind the black orb to the church. Step of Wind dash, and Shadow Step all the way to the coin slot in the wall, which takes a really long time because this place is so fucking big. Put the copper coin in the door, open the door. Move down the hallway to the 3 other doors, open those, fall into the 3rd pit. Perception check to reveal that magic door. The Detect Magic Lingering lets us use the Dispel Magic scroll on the fuck you door, and we race into the room with 3 vats, aggravating the ochre jelly. The key halves are magical, so Detect Magic should let us see the acid in the key, but if we can't, we do this. Flurry of Blows, with the first attack at the base of the acid vat so it breaks open and floods the floor while we fight the jelly. We finish fighting the jelly, take the 2 key halves, leave the room, and Shadow Step to the secret door down the hall. We'll then perceive the entry to the Agitated room, run inside, move the tapestry aside that's covering the next secret door, and man, perception checks really slow us down. We perceive the door that we are now staring at, mad dash down and Shadow Step to the final double fake out door. Through the power of our dungeon sight feat, we notice the secret trap door, enter it, and run to the sword door. We use 3 swords on a stick to open the door, run to the throne, grab the scepter, inspect the chair, poke it with the scepter's silver end to open the secret passage, overcome the saving throw for the key, pick it up, then slam dunk the stupid fucking evil scepter's gold end into the bowl and open the big bleeding mithril door. Enter the treasure room, feed the 2 mice the giant strength potions, then put them behind the big statue so that we can all move it together. Hold the SpongeBob string, enter the exit hall, and perceive the last hidden door. Use the first key from the alchemy room, open the door, use the second key on the second door and turn it not once, not twice, but thrice. Step back as the floor rises to the ceiling, go under it, pull open the 3rd door, enter the crypt, ignore the bone ghost, and use the last item we brought, a leather bag, to scoop up the demilich, blinding him, disabling all relevant layer actions, his life drain ability, his vile curse legendary action, his soul trap, and his howl ability won't work because we have earplugs in. We're listening to Kids Bop or something, I don't know. If you want to be a stickler and shift the ruling around, sure. Scroll of Silence or Scroll of Deafness in place of the plugs and we'll lose 1 round. And then combat starts, where all the demilich can do is cast Cloud of Dust or Energy Drain as a legendary action, while we continuously beat the ever-living God-fearing shit out of this stupid fucking skull that forced me to read through this whole dungeon, and we outdamage him by about 3 to 1. Okay, now that I'm at the end of editing that instead of writing it, I triple-checked the rules and found a tiny stipulation. Doors are stupid. As a part of a move action, you can interact with 1 object, which is often called your free action. There are no existing rules about interacting with objects as a bonus action, but you can make offhand attacks after attack actions, and monks can use Flurry of Blows. Most DMs and grumpy viewers would rule against me doing Flurry of Doorknobs, even if I offered up key points to speed up my fingies. If you want to run through the dungeon a different way than I interpreted it, absolutely feel free. You could even incorporate passive perception to blitz past most of the checks that slowed me down. Or if you're using the lore that I made for this character, he would have already known where those secret doors were. But for how I chose to run it, it took roughly 17 rounds to reach a Sararak, or 1 minute and 42 seconds. And based on the rolls I made to beat up that pillow, it took 4 rounds, or 24 seconds to deal 80 damage to his thick skull. Meaning we raced through the dungeon, survived all of his traps, and beat the fuck out of a Sararak, killing him forever in 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Tout this shit as a multi-day, multi-session dungeon all you want. Mr. Wise Guy did it alone before breakfast. Not for treasure, not for fame, but because a Sararak fucking sucks, his dungeon sucks, and he should feel ashamed. Also, yes, I know the leading theory is that the demilich is the 3rd fake-out and a Sararak is still out there or his phylactery is elsewhere. I also know he's likely hiding in a pocket realm near the not-so-far reaches of the quasi-elemental plane of Ash outside Citadel Cavidius. I fucking know where you are, bitch. Vecna tattled, and Mr. Wise Guy is headed there next. My voice hurts. Let me know what you think. If you liked it, comment, die, a Sararak, die. Thanks for watching. Oh, also I got new merch. We did a little photo shoot a bit ago. I might have attacked the cameraman. I'm not entirely sure. There's a fancy gold foil shirt depicting me locked in combat with an ancient serpent, and a hat commemorating that series that I did. And if you're wondering if it looks good on cute ladies, yes it does. All of it does. You can get it with the link below the other one. Okay, bye. I love you.